Okay, so now I'm discussing the development of an embryo until it is ready to be released from the uterus. So after implantation, the embryo has to grow up until it becomes a full baby and then released from the body of the uterus. So we're going to see what happens inside the uterus after implantation. So after some few weeks after the embryo has implanted in the uterus, there's a development of extra-embryonic membranes of the embryo. So those membranes are going to try to protect the embryo from various things that can harm it during its growth. So I'm just going to draw a sketch of the uterus. So let's say let's just say this thing is an embryo, just for so this embryo, while it's busy developing, is going to develop some extra embryonic membranes that will protect the uterus or and so on. So these two membranes, we call them the extra-embryonic membrane, extra-embryonic membranes. Or if you the extra-embryonic membranes, it is because of they are external to the embryo. Embryo. This is what they need, the extra-embryonic membranes. So these two membranes, these are the main zone. So the internal one is the amnion, and then the chorion. So after some few weeks of implantation, extra-embryonic membranes develop. So the internal membrane is called the amnion, and the external one is called the chorion. So these two membranes they have a common function to protect the embryo once the uterus. So inside the amnion, we have a fluid. The amniotic fluid. So this is like meats and the jellyana the amnion. So meats ana to protect the body against mechanical injury. So the baby is able to swim on how to move the media. Relax the Another thing ngwana le mo teng mona metsi ana a mo keepa mo temperature e le reng e sharp for development ya gagwe, because of temperature ya mmele e ko godimo thata for development ya ngwana. So metsi ana mo ba mo temperature ya gagwe e leng e sharp mo gone. Another thing gape le gore metsi a protecta mo gone ke gore fa motho ha motho a imile a ba bidiwa ka face, this face e sa gona go lematsa ngwana mo teng, e neng ka re go na le mowa mo teng ga mpa fela, or maybe a ka thula tafole ka mistake, then ngwana a sa gobala ke mmereko wa metsi yana, the amniotic fluid. So the chorion and the amnion, they play a role in the formation of the placenta. So the placenta get this structure. So this structure is the placenta. So the placenta it connects this baby with the mother. The placenta, because of how mama aja dijo tse di tsaya mo teng ga the placenta before di ka tla mo ngwaneng, and then ha ngwana a excreta dilo di tswa mo ngwaneng di tsena mo teng ga placenta before di ka ko mame or mama gona go di excreta ko ntle. So the placenta connecta the developing embryo with the mother, ke the function of the placenta. Another thing gape, we have this rope, it's like a rope, the umbilical cord. So the umbilical cord it's a dijo kapa the nutrients from the placenta into the baby. It's a gape the waste from the baby, not the baby actually, the embryo into the placenta, then the placenta be transported to the mother. So ke function of thing. So these extra-embryonic membranes, we have the chorionic villi here. So those chorionic villi, they form this placenta. So after 12 weeks, the progesterone has to maintain a pregnancy. Pregnancy is maintained the placenta because of formation that thing complete. Then this placenta secrete progesterone. So it means that structure is secreting progesterone, the corpus luteum, has to another musola miracle because the miracle the placenta will secrete progesterone. So those are two the functions are placenta, these are the umbilical cord. So the really functions that the placenta, the umbilical cord. Then those veins and arteries that are found in the umbilical cord. We have the umbilical artery, we have the umbilical vein. So you have to know the umbilical artery play which role, and then umbilical vein play which role. So those blood vessels ke ditshika hela ka gona ditshika mo matsogong a rona tse transporta madi le teng ga the umbilical cord go na ditshika tse ntse di transportang dijo le madi from mama to ngwana and from ngwana to mama. Ke tsone tseo tse tshwantseng go di itse gape. So we have the umbilical artery. So this one, umbilical artery, it carries or transports blood from the mother to the fetus or embryo. And then we have umbilical vein. This one, it transports blood from fetus or embryo to mother. So we differentiate inside these blood vessels, and then this blood, the blood is on go the mother. It is the oxygenated blood in a oxygen. If they have the nutrients because of it to form the mother ya kungwane. So can late na the oxygen in a lady so one tlhokang so that ngwana a tla kgona go develop sentle. And then madi a tsang go from the fetus a travelang ka the umbilical vein. One a deoxygenated hana oxygen ke madi a leshwe ebile gape madi ana a tshwere gape tse di ntshwa ke ngwana so that le kgona go ntshwa ke ngwana ke mme konti because ba ke ngwana bo te ga de uterus bo te ga mpa ha gone go excrete ka boyene so o thusa ke mama ga o ra kgona go excrete so the waste is go kgweletsa di etsang o tsenya mo te ga the umbilical cord after the umbilical cord di tsena mo te ga the placenta after the placenta di tsena mo te ga mama then mama ba di excrete la konti. So that's why the placenta is important because of the exchange the gases and nutrients between the mother and the fetus or the embryo. So this thing important. The placenta is able to secrete progesterone. So once progesterone levels di le go godimo mo teng ga madi a motho, it means FSH, the follicle stimulating hormone levels, they are down. And then if FSH levels they are down mo teng ga body, it means there won't be any egg or ovum developing. So if it means there won't be ovulation. And then without ovulation, it means in the fallopian tube there won't be any egg available for fertilization. Therefore, there won't be fertilization when the levels of progesterone are high. That's why hamoto are pregnant as go pregnant pregnant. Why? Because of there's no ovulation taking place because of the high levels of progesterone. So ha go le yalo motho a ka se kgone go ka ima gape as ambe these levels the progesterone di go godimo ga mmele. So go ne bitsa ke negative feedback mechanism between progesterone and FSH. So this negative feedback mechanism, it means that when the levels of progesterone are high, the levels of FSH goes down. It means progesterone affects the FSH negatively because of your focus on mading. This is what thinking negative feedback mechanism. We have other mechanisms called body positive feedback mechanisms. So available in grade 12. So in our case, we did a negative feedback mechanism only. So you need the negative feedback mechanism. FSH and progesterone. So this mechanism states that when progesterone rises in the blood, FSH drops. So se sa bontsha gore ha motho a imile, the levels of progesterone mo teng ga body ya gagwe di dingata. That's why o simolola bona motho a simolola a gain weight ha imile, because of the levels of progesterone di ko godimo mo teng ga madi a gagwe. And then other pregnancy tests, they detect the level of progesterone. I'm not pregnant, but during early stages of pregnancy, the pregnancy test they detect the progesterone, because of during that time levels at somebody go class. Sometimes they see secretive. So she have other hormone for your own information. Every somebody human chorionic gonadotropin, HCG. So let me just write it here first for your information. The pregnancy tests totally they exist on the fasting, because the first hormone to be secreted immediately after implantation. So human chorionic gonadotropin. So abbreviation they call also H, small h, capital C, capital G. So go on HCG. So this hormone is going to detect the pregnancy test. You can see even those tests that those kits they test on pregnancy, because HCG outside they are born out this hormone going to detect that particular machine, if I may call it. Yeah. So but then this thing is for your extra information if I know it. Okay. So everything, the function everything or after implantation. So once all of these things are successfully more a developing embryo, you can develop positively until a complete baby during labor. But then if example the uterus means a baby, means the fetus. So the embryo after some weeks is going to change a fetus. A complete human being, but a fetus. Then after if it's release during labor, because of once after 9 months fedile, because rate of pregnancy is 9 months. So after 9 months fedile, the body is able to sense, the brain especially, which is the most important organ, is able to sense now it's a complete development. So I release you, and then whereby the hormone oxytocin release you. Then oxytocin it travels to the uterus. That's not the uterus, it reaches the uterine muscles. That is stimulate how the contract. How do you talk about contract? There are other chemicals called the prostaglandins. So those prostaglandins, they help oxytocin, where the muscles start the womb, the uterus to contract. So when they start to contract, they initiate labor, the first stage of labor, whereby when you feel the pains, that's when that internal membrane, the amnion, breaks, and then after it breaks, break the chorion. Once the chorion breaks, it means the amniotic fluid release you. Then and then that fluid release you outside the vagina, whereby the first stage is labor initiated, and then that's when wanna release you different stages of labor. Yeah, so different like them more.